Welcome back, everyone. How are you doing specifically? Are you enjoying your morning? Yes, we got thumbs up. I definitely know you're enjoying your morning because the beers are out. It's hit midday. Welcome back, everyone, to the best and only stage you should spend your time at here today at TNW, the Vision stage. Just because I want to steal audiences from the other stages around us, do me a big favor, okay? You're going to scream, Vision, in a second, all right? You with me? A little test. I'll do 1, 2, 3. Vision! Yeah? 1, 2, 3. Vision! All right, that's beautiful. Okay, we're going to go Vision stage, okay? 1, 2, 3. Vision! Louder. You guys, come on, you can do it. 1, 2, 3. Vision! All right, let's test it out. Stage, ready? 1, 2, 3. Stage! One more time. Stage! I love you guys. Your game today. I like this. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Vision! Stage! Give yourselves a round of applause for being game. I love it. All right. This is the best stage to be at. You can just get cozy. Think of it as your living room. Get comfortable. Say hi to your neighbor. Make a friend. We have breaks every 20, 30 minutes. Go and have a chat with your friend afterwards. Get a beer like these gentlemen are doing. Great. We love it. All right. Now, speaking of living rooms, my favorite word in Finnish. Does anyone speak Finnish here? Give us a wave, Finns. They'll probably be at the back. Is kal sarikanet. So our next speaker is Finnish, and he'll tell you what that means in a minute. But you might not be thinking the idea of a Finnish public speaker sounds too exciting. Teemu is going to disprove that theory once and for all here. Teemu is an interesting character. Not only is he a biohacker, author, founder of Biohacker Summit, but 10 years ago, he won the TNW Best Web App competition in a pitch battle, and he didn't even enter it. That's how good this guy is. Ladies and gentlemen, Teemu Arina! My man.
Okay, now we go. Okay, it just disconnected for a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, 10 years ago I was at the Next Web. I was at a startup, and suddenly one of the organizers came that, hey, you have 1 minute to tell what your company is doing. And I gave the pitch, and after that they came back and they told me that you are a wild card in the startup rally competition, that you have 20 minutes to prepare your talk, and you're going to go on stage. And what most people would do in this moment, they would basically get worried and they would start looking at like, what am I going to say and all that. But what I did, I came to the room and I sit down and I started doing breath work, taking a deep breath in. You can do it with me. Hold your breath and breathe out. Eyes closed. I just did 4 seconds in, 4-second breath hold, 4-second out, breath hold, etc. And once I opened up my eyes, I heard my name. I walked on the stage, and next to the stage there was some fruits. And I went to the stage, and I started juggling. And then I asked, do you sometimes feel that you are juggling too many balls at the same time, and you can't keep up with it? And then I finished my pitch on the second. And after that, I went back to my stand. And after a while, they came and told me that I have won the pitch competition. And I came on stage, and there was fireworks and all kinds of stuff going on. I couldn't believe what happened. So, over 10 years ago, when I was an entrepreneur, I was not very healthy. I think entrepreneurship is one of the unhealthiest things you can do, actually, in your life. We believe we are working on our dreams, but we are also working ourselves into the grave. There's the biggest tragedy of us as humans, that we work, on our dreams. We push the, envelope to make all the money, and then we spend all that fortune to get ourselves back to health. Most of the end of the life, is about that. You spend fortune just trying to stay alive. And I hope that most of you will not go on that path of living long but having all kinds of issues. But hopefully you will live long, healthy, perform well, work on your dreams, and then die boots on. That would be ideal. We are not human beings, we are human becomings. And 10 years ago, arguably, I maybe looked even older than I look right now. I'm 41 now. But at that time, as an entrepreneur for 10 years, from my 20s to 30s, I had focused all of my attention on work, hustle. Long hours, every single minute I would put into the work that I do. Until I turned 30, I noticed I had pain in my stomach. And what I did what most people would do. I went to a doctor and I got diagnosed with an ulcer, a stress-related illness, which became chronic. And I got some pills that would reduce stomach acid levels so that the wound would be able to heal. When I started taking the pills, I felt better. I started hustling again. But once the pills ran out, the pain came back. And I went back to the doctor and they prescribed me more pills. And what I did, I went online. I went into PubMed, which is a medical database of information. And I started from the ulcer, I started from the medication I was taking. I learned that I'm not supposed to take this medication for the rest of my life. Like my doctor said that, yeah, some people just have to be on this drug, for the rest of their lives. I was 30. I didn't want to live with a chronic illness. And because of my mind of analyzing things into deep details, I've been a computer programmer, systems thinker. I became a teacher in high school when I was 16. I was preparing university students when I was 18. I became a public speaker when I was 19. And startup entrepreneur. I introduced social media, social technology in Finland, in my home country, after 2000s, before people didn't even know about that. So I've been always very interested in how things work and operate. And I don't trust gurus, because I was a guru from young age. At least older people told me that. So I don't trust health gurus. So I went to medical database and I designed my own protocol for healing, for dealing with this illness, this inflammatory disease that I had. And when I went to the rabbit hole, I discovered that stress management is a pretty good idea. And sleeping more is a really nice idea as well. And eating nutritious food that you have all the building blocks for the body to deal with what's going on is also great. And maybe eating an anti-inflammatory diet that you don't make the problem worse. And maybe getting avoiding some of the foods that are inflammatory, etc. But as a systems thinker, as a computer programmer, I wanted to understand what this black box is made out of. So for each one of these areas, I had some kind of wearable or technology or lab test or something to figure out what's going on in the system. So because you're a cybernetic system, there's inputs, there's processes, there's outputs. So I basically carried the teachings of Peter Drucker, who came up with the term knowledge worker and knowledge management. What gets measured gets managed. I didn't know up until that point in my life what my body is doing, in a sense. Many people, don't know much more than what their weight is. And maybe once in 10 years they do full lab work. But I was collecting hundreds of biomarkers, more than a cancer patient. And then I started implementing my protocol as the last resort. And after 3 months, I started feeling better. But then what happened? I noticed that my brain came back online at a level where it was never before in my life. I didn't have fatigue. It was not like a fluctuating thing throughout the day. So I learned the connection between the gut and the brain axis. I had all kinds of gut issues all my life, and suddenly I didn't have those. And when the summer came along, I noticed that I was no longer allergic to pollen from the trees. So my immune system was not overreacting to foreign protein fragments. And Now I know that it was because of an epigenetic change. I had changed the environment inside of me and outside of me, the relationship, and my system had adjusted, and it was no longer all reacting to this. Now this sounds great, but this is the last decade of health optimization. Up here, you see heart disease risk. Arguably, everything was kind of within reference range. Doctors wouldn't treat me, but it was not optimal. Now it's way more optimal. Now looking at my diabetes risk, I was not diabetic, but kind of pre-diabetic almost. I've been able to drag myself out of it. Now looking at my organ failure risk, I have genetic risk factor for kidney disease. I've been able to improve my kidney function although I'm taking all these supplements. And when looking at my testosterone levels, at the age of 30, the average testosterone level was at the 45-year-old man, average 45-year-old man. And a decade later, my testosterone levels at the age of 40 is on the average testosterone level of a 25-year-old, without hormonal replacement therapy, without drugs. It's all lifestyle health optimization. And this is not random variation. This is not an accident. This is systematic health optimization by using quantified self-technologies through which you gain self-knowledge through those numbers, through this data. So when people argue about diets and lifestyle, I ask them, show me the data. Show me the numbers. I want to see. You can study things and you can listen to all kinds of experts and you can do all kinds of research, but you don't know until you try these things on yourself and you show me the data. Nowadays, it's much easier than it was a decade ago. Just to get a wearable, it was not even available in Europe easily, so I had to order them from weird places. But now, you have, for example, the Finnish company Oura that really is combining AI and these sensors and providing you that data. And as a startup entrepreneur, I've been to all kinds of conferences. When I was at the Slush conference, you can see 2 days here. Here's first day and the second day. Both had a lot of meetings, but a lot of presentations as well. And the difference between these 2 days is that I was way more stressed, way more sympathetic nervous system activation than on the second day. What did I do differently? This was deliberate. First day, I just hustled like all of you do. And the second day, I took a deep breath, 1 minute breath. Hold breath, breathe out. Easy way to think about it is that you extend your out breath to be twice of your in breath. So you breathe in 1 second, you breathe out 2 seconds. You breathe in 2 seconds, you breathe out 4 seconds. And then you go into your meeting. And by the way, what happened? I was less self-centered. I was more interested in the other person. Also, when I did that, when I went to meetings, I put a timer on the table. Let's do 1 minute breath. The investors were listening to me. I made more deals because I brought people into presence because they were not in a sympathetic fight or flight state, because I lowered that overstimulation. I activated the parasympathetic nervous system, and they were suddenly listening and not self-centered assholes like most of them are. I can tell you about startup conferences. It's people who don't have money, pretending they have. Those are investors. They don't really often invest their own money. They invest someone else's money, and they are tied by fund agreements. And then there is companies, startups, who pretend they have a product, who don't have a product, who are looking for money. So it's just 2 guys lying to each other, and this is the whole freaking theater that is going on here. I have experience of that. We are becoming, because of this data perspective, we are moving from blood donors to data donors. We have so much information coming from the human body that what I did a decade ago, which was super hard, is now easier and easier and cheaper. But maybe we'll need blood still. At least Brian Johnson, one of those Silicon Valley startup millionaires who sold his company to PayPal, thinks, because he also worked himself to death doing these companies, and then he's now spending his fortune to get his health back, to rejuvenate his body, and he's using his son as a blood boy. I don't need a blood boy, but Brian needs a blood boy. That's what you need when you become a millionaire. So he wants to put his son into an MRI machine and himself, and when you look through the images, you don't see a difference. That's pretty scary, maybe to some. Now, this is all biohacking. It's health and performance optimization based on lifestyle, medical, and technological interventions. You use science, bioinformatics, you quantify things on yourself, you do self-experiments, you optimize health. Now, I wrote a book called The Biohacker's Handbook. That was kind of where all my work has culminated in, which goes through exercise, nutrition, sleep, mind, and work, and how this can be seen as systems that can be optimized. And a decade later, I would say I'm more successful, I have more responsibility, I have more things on my plate than I had a decade ago. But I'm wiser. And I hope that you will also all become wiser in the way how you run your things, because in the end, it's not worth it, really. Hustling is not worth it. You can do the same. You can work harder, yes, but how about smarter? Because health is to be in balance. Imbalance leads to disease. Better, faster, stronger, that's not what it's about. It's not about filling every second with, productivity. It's about running things more efficiently. It's about the effectiveness of where you spend your time. Because if you think of your daily cycle, you don't really get 8 hours or 12 hours or 16 hours of productive, high-performing work done. There's maybe 2 hours. So how do you savor the 2 hours? But in the end, the human body is a homeostatic system. It strives for balance, and imbalance leads to disease. If you look at chronic diseases, 27% of the world population has one or more chronic conditions. If you live 65 plus, 64% have 2 or more chronic conditions. At the age of 45, that's where the decline happens. Chronic low-level inflammation, chronic oxidative stress, chronic insulin resistance. All of these were present in my condition as a startup entrepreneur 10 years ago. Statistically, startup entrepreneurs have burnout symptoms. 80% of them have burnout symptoms after 2 years of running their companies. The biggest risk for you at my age is not really that you will die in an infectious disease or something. It's more likely you will die in a car accident. But even more so, it's more likely that we will grow up having degenerative disease that break our bodies down slowly. And that's why when we think about optimal performance and health, those go hand in hand. It's a systems view. You're a biological computer. How do you run this system, this operating system? We're so interested in our technology and how we run our businesses and getting all those MBA things. But if you're brain fogged, tired, stressed, you're not a fun guy to be around with. You're not a good leader. You have to learn to lead yourself. And it's about leading how you interact with the environment inside and outside of you. And it often starts with daily routines. I have a sauna, of course, because I'm from Finland, in the middle of my living room. And that's where I start my day, every single day. I turn on my infrared sauna. I have some steam going on, so I hydrate my respiratory system. Maybe some essential oils there going on. This is, by the way, this great video to show ladies on a dating site. That's maybe why I don't have any dates. So, interestingly, when I do meditation, I do breath work, all of these things, and I often do ice baths as well. I start my day like this. I do red light therapy, which activates something called cytochrome C oxidase in the center of your cells, which produce ATP, which is energy. I hydrate myself using phytoplankton, and nowadays also spermidine, which was originally discovered in sperm. So I'm literally having a cup of sperm in the morning. That's pretty sexy. I do some body work, activate my lymphatic system. And I do my morning coffee. And in my coffee, I put all kinds of weird things, like reindeer bone broth. And recently also, I've been putting into my coffee bull testicles and medicinal mushrooms. I think all of us need more mushrooms in our lives. Do you agree? More mushrooms? Yeah, more mushrooms. That's how I start my day. So here we go, chaga mushrooms. That's what I do. That's my morning. Think about your routines. It's the most commonly asked question of what is your routines, and then I do my workout. But even if I look at the benefits of doing something like heat alteration, like this is the cure, like a preventive cure for so many diseases in terms of metabolism and cardiovascular system. You're basically training your microvasculature, your cardiovascular system. If you don't have time to exercise, at least go to sauna, 3 times a week for 30 minutes. That's the optimal amount. And when you do a cold exposure, you are releasing all those hormones that make you feel awesome. But it also helps you with stress management. Jack Nicholson probably would agree, right? So if you have stress, you need cold therapy. That's actually what's used as a treatment for psychosis in the old times. You just throw someone into cold ice water, they probably calm down. And if you want to do this in a proper way, you fast 16 hours. You have actually already done that overnight. Then you exercise for 30 minutes. You do a sauna, 15 minutes. Autophagy is the process through which your body is recycling damaged cells. So you have all these senescent cells that are zombie cells that refuse to die. To activate autophagy every single day, repeatedly, over time, is awesome. If you don't have access to ice bath and sauna, at least do a cold shower, hot shower in the morning, and finish with cold. And then I also do daily red and infrared light therapy, which boosts my energy levels, like a cup of coffee. That's called photobiomodulation. It's amazing what it's able to do. But have you ever considered how you became who you are? Like, really? If you think of your success, is it a result of the family you were born in the country you were born in, the school you went to? Or is it that you're a self-made man, that you have the initiative and ability to change the world? And interestingly, this often mirrors your relationship with your parents. If your parents were all very entrepreneurial, it's likely that you will also have entrepreneurial mindset. If you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth and thinking that education is all that matters, external factors, external success, validation, then that might be the case. We develop all kinds of childhood coping mechanisms. These are the strategies through which we face stress and trauma and help manage painful emotions and difficult situations. This leads to, in the way how we relate with others. If you're an anxious type or if you're an avoidant type, you avoid emotional confrontation. If you're afraid of people, or if you're secure, you're able to stand up and tell people what you really think. And this all boils down to how we do entrepreneurship as well. What kind of neurotic strategies we deploy in the way how we run our businesses. Do we seek approval? Do we do things because we need other people's approval? Or do we do that for power? Or do we do that, because we are perfectionists? Now, people push themselves to achieve greater and greater things as a result of basic insecurity. They fear failure, they need to accomplish more than others, and often they also want to top their own personal achievements. This is the typical blueprint of a narcissist, and many entrepreneurs and leaders of nation-state and stock-listed companies, CEOs, statistically are more likely to be narcissistic. And narcissism is not that you have a grandiose ego. You actually don't have an ego, it didn't develop. There's a deeply felt insecurity. And this is why you do this. This is why you push yourself to the limit of dying. Because you need other people's approval. And who is the biggest role model, or the biggest role models of this whole industry?
If you have an advice to the young people globally who want to be like Elon Musk, what's your advice to them?
I think that probably they shouldn't want to be.
You?
I think it sounds better than it is.
Okay.
It sounds better than it is. Elon Musk really thinks he's the only one who can run Tesla. When he came into the company, invested his money in it, he voted the original founders and CEO off the island because there can be only one guy running the show. The same with Twitter. How many relationships has that guy had? Like 6, 7 marriages? How many children? How many companies? Is he ever happy? But these people are our role models. Look at Mark Zuckerberg. Does that guy look healthy? Is he someone who you would go to with personal, spiritual questions? What is kind of interesting is that these people are solving their own problems. Like Mark Zuckerberg built the biggest social technology company in the world, and he's probably the most non-social person, like sociable, like almost like an android, like maybe a little bit of Asperger's kind of autistic spectrum. So we often solve our own problems. And I've noticed the same with, any kind of leaders in the world who rise to the power. There is a shadow. We're not led by the greatest of us. We're led by the least among us. And those are our role models. We imitate the extremes. We want to achieve like this greatness. But don't do it. It's not worth it, my friends. If you want to investigate, if you are like a nutcase, go to darkfactor.org, and you can look at the dark personality traits: egoism, greed, Machiavellism, moral disengagement, narcissism, psychological entitlement, psychopathy, sadism, self-centeredness, spitefulness. By the way, these are all human conditions. We all have these things. This is my results. I'm on the lower side of the spectrum. I was a bit afraid when I did this test. But if I was a psychopath, of course I would lie, right? Unresolved adverse childhood experiences, these are linked to poor health outcomes. Disrupted neurodevelopment, social, emotional, and cognitive impairment, adoption of health risk behaviors, entrepreneurship, disease, disability, and social inabilities, early death. I remember when I was a consultant for a big German auto manufacturer, the HR department told me that people here, high-performance culture means to them that they die 2 years after retirement. It's a sick high-performance culture. That's not a healthy high-performance culture. We all need healing. You have to really face yourself and why you do this. Why are you here trying to raise money? Why are you trying to build companies and be the best? This swimsuit competition environment where everyone is being told to each other that, you need a pitch. If you don't have a pitch, you come up with a pitch. You just make it up. Everyone is lying about how many customers they have, the features of their product, they made explainer videos. It's all fake. And there is a psychological concept to it. It's called imposter syndrome. You have to start an inner dialogue. Why you need to become somebody? And the second one is the inner dialogue with the lack of self-worth. You are enough. You matter. You don't need to be Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg. So Alan Watts said, waking up to who you are requires letting go of who you imagine yourself to be. And on the way of becoming, not a human being, but a human becoming, it's an evolutionary process. We all need to kind of rise to certain things, go through the hero's journey, face challenges, and through that we become wiser and more understandable of what's going on in the world, and potentially be able to elevate, the average collective human consciousness and state of being. My next book is called The Resilient Being. And in this book, I dive into the physical resilience, the mental resilience, the social resilience that I just touched a little bit. But it's all also about spiritual resilience, consciousness and transcendence, because we don't have much time on this freaking planet. We are running out of resources with our greed, and we have to, come up with other strategies. We are in a bifurcation point in time. We can't go to the future with the same strategies and principles that got us here. Our world leaders are narcissistic psychopaths, every single one of them. We're led by the least among us. Why do we vote these people to power? Why do we, give money to these greedy companies who lie to their investors and to their customers? If you're interested in more, I organize a conference called Biohacker Summit, and I'm happy to work with the Next Web as well and be here. And that's where we will dive deeper into the need to expand our consciousness because that's what, in the end, we all want, to be more connected to ourselves, into our environments, into Mother Nature, with each other, that we can do great things together and not just, do things for your selfish needs. Thank you. Go hack yourself.